Hello, welcome to Film ReVision. I am Jonathan Betzler. Film ReVision is a video blog from Myriad Arts Productions in which over the course of 2008, we are going to discuss 25 films from 25 years ago. And for those of you who can't do the math, that's 1983. Now, why are we looking at old films? Well, one reason is it's an easier thing for you guys to follow along. These are films that are pretty accessible, films that you can get on Netflix or Blockbuster or whatever, and you can rent them yourself and watch our discussion and then post comments and discuss with us. We're putting ourselves in a situation where we're looking at films from the same year to see what it was like to experience them in that year or to simulate that somehow. Also, at the end of the year, we're going to have a little recap show, and then you're going to help with that because if you can vote, there's a little stars thing at the bottom there. Vote on each blog and your favorites and the guests for the blog with the best highest score. We'll come back for the recap and we'll talk about all the films over the course of the year. The first film that we're going to talk about is The Right Stuff, and for that our guests are Abby Leafe, a research consultant from Hopewell, New Jersey, and Dan Chen, an attorney from New York. The Right Stuff is significant personally for a reason. Christmas 1984 is my father presented to the family its very first VCR. And the very first film, the very first movie he brought home from the movie store was The Right Stuff. And I bring that up for a reason, in that for a lot of families at that time, a lot of these films were being discovered by people for the first time on home video. So I mean, like that, over the course of the year, we'll take a look at how that affected viewership of these films. What did you guys think of the film?
You know, I liked it a lot, probably a lot more than I thought I would when I picked up the DVD and thought, oh my, there's like these 7 guys on the cover and it's just going to be this macho airplane astronaut festival for 3 hours. But I really liked it a lot. And, I think the thing that is the mark of a good movie is you can know exactly how it's going to end and, and what's going to happen, and you're still like on the edge of your seat, like, oh my God, maybe John Glenn will die, but he doesn't, and so that to me, is the mark of a good movie, and so, I enjoyed it.
Dan Chen.
I thought it was a good film. I'll be honest, it didn't blow me away considering sort of the pedigree it has, awards and whatnot. I think the thing that left me wanting the most was the ending. I felt there wasn't the sort of closure I was looking for there.
Okay, what do you mean?
I remember having the reaction at the end of, it was like a three-plus hour movie, 190 minutes I think it was, and thinking, my God, that's it? That's it?
I thought that too.
But what I thought was fascinating about this film is the character was not any single one of the actual characters. The protagonist was the space program, I think. Overall, I mean, like it was the origins of the space program and how it evolved. It didn't necessarily it followed so many different characters. The real arc of the film, to me, and I thought it was a fascinating idea and a fascinating choice, was the American space program and its race against the Russian space program.
I'm not sure I agree with that 100%. I think it's certainly the context for which to frame the story about...
Then who's the main character?
Mankind.
Mankind.
Well, I mean...
The Russians, they didn't follow the Russians. The Russians were doing the space thing first. I mean, not mankind.
Well, I mean, think...
It was very American. There's something very, very American about this thing.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think... it's not... It wasn't American in that they vilified the Russians, per se, but it was... Oh, you think they did have, I guess.
A little bit. I mean, it didn't really hammer the Russians. Like, it wasn't really too mean-spirited, except when they did show the Russians, like, twice, Philip Kaufman, like, had this, like, image of fire, and, like, this big Russian head, But, I mean, like, I don't think that's necessarily how Kaufman was depicting Russians, as he was trying to suggest how the United States in the 60s viewed the Russian enemy.
You take it in the context. I think it would have been a different experience watching it at the time, in 1983.
That's what I'm trying to
And now, watching it now, it's not any different to me than watching any other film of that time depicting what the political climate was at that time.
So tell me, what was your favorite character in the film?
I would have to say Gordo, who is played very well by a young Dennis Quaid, right? And what I enjoyed about it is he really brought to life a historical figure that I really didn't know a lot about. You know the John Glenns, you know the Alan Shepherds.
Did that make his performance
Sam
better?
Shepard, yeah.
Did that make his performance better? I mean, because you didn't know. I mean, it was the character. Because I don't know how good Dennis Quaid was as an actor at the time.
Actually, maybe as an actor that gave him more freedom. That he didn't.
He wasn't married to such
like a clear public opinion about someone. So yeah, maybe.
Dennis Quaid was hot in this movie.
What?
He was hot. I never thought about him for more than like 3 seconds in my whole life, but he was really good.
I really like Dennis Quaid's wife. I thought she really gave a really nuanced performance.
Well, the interactions between them and the subtlety of it and their chemistry was just a silly word, but yeah, I don't know.
Chemistry's not a silly word. It's a real thing. I mean, and like films need it. Like actors, Dan can tell you.
Whatever happened to her?
Pamela Reed, she was in Kindergarten Cop. She was in...
It's my husband's favorite movie.
Closing thoughts.
I don't think you can talk about this movie without comparing it to one of my other favorites, Top Gun.
What?
Yeah, it's just, it had...
But Top Gun is such like a pop, bubblegum nonsense. I mean, it's a fun movie, but stuff like, trumps it in so many different ways. I think if you're going
to talk about all these lofty ideals using words I can't even spell, you have to just emphasize.
She just likes the scene on the volleyball, buff scene in the beach.
And there are some differences, but, I think just... needs to be said.
Closing thoughts.
To be fair, that's one of my favorite movies as well.
Top Gun is a fine film.
It's fine film.
Let's put it this way: this is better.
Okay.
But there are similarities.
And I think
they both fly planes.
Well, I mean,
the Gordo character could have been flying with Maverick and Top Gun.
I think Chuck Yeager could have been flying. I mean, he drove a motorcycle. Didn't he ride a motorcycle?
In Top Gun?
No,
Chuck Yeager.
He rode a horse, remember?
A horse, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay.
As a closing thought, I mean, I think the reason this movie will never be dated is and it didn't feel antiquated at all because I insist that it's still about the human spirit and breaking through thresholds and breaking new barriers and that constant struggle to build on all the failures of mankind. And it's just amazing that like our ancestors, like mankind's ancestors, survived these things. And when you watch something like The Right Stuff, and you see, all the trials and tribulations that they triumphed over and survived through to bring us to where we are now, I think it'll never be dated. All
right, that's it. Abby, Dan, thank you very much for being with us. Now, if you guys like movies, which you probably do if you're watching this blog, then you probably are going to think it's a pretty cool thing that they're doing in New York. Reel 13 on Channel 13 in New York, it's a PBS affiliate, is a very cool new initiative. It's a celebration of cinema on Reel 13. Every Saturday night, starting at 9 o'clock, Channel 13 is showing a classic film, followed by a short, which is voted on by you guys on reel13.org. In other words, if you tune into reel13.org, they have shorts up there that you can vote on, and the winning short gets broadcast on Saturday nights. And then after the short, they show a recent indie film. So it's runs the gamut, classic, shorts, indies, every Saturday night on Reel 13. Reel 13 returns to television March 22nd with Elia Kazan's classic East of Eden, followed by a short, and then the indie Imaginary Heroes. So check these films out, and also don't forget to vote on Film ReVision on each of these blogs. And next time on Film ReVision, we'll have Flashdance, which should be a fun conversation. All right, thanks very much. I'm Jonathan Betzler for Film ReVision, and we'll talk to you soon.